Well,
I hear you great. And
all
good
right.
afternoon, everybody. We are live. I am here with Christopher Taylor of Ernie Hawson's Signature Sound. Christopher, what an honor to have you here today.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for reaching out. Very
So,
excited.
you joined Ernie Hawson's Signature Sound in 2024 as the new bass vocalist. Can you
hmm
share the story of how you connected with the group and what it was like to be welcomed into such a tight knit team?
it was all planned out by God. I had no plan on being a singer. I was studying for physical therapy, and I heard that Saint Sound was coming to Florida, so I went just as a fan. I went with my brother. And after the show, they were selling product, and I went up to Ernie and I showed him some of my recordings, and he was pretty impressed. And we stayed connected. And then about a week after I met Ernie, Paul decided that it was his time to come off the road, and then they chatted, and my name was mentioned in their conversation. And when I got that phone call, my life changed right away, and I knew it was an open door and I had to walk through it, and it's been the biggest blessing from God, and I can't be more thankful.
So, you met the group at a live show in Miami, Florida, and struck up an instant friendship. What was it about that initial encounter that made you feel that Ernie Hawson's Signature Sound was the right fit for you?
That's a great question. And it wasn't actually in Miami, Florida. It was Fort Myers. So it was a bit of a drive to get there. But when I grew up listening to Saint Sound my whole life. My dad sung gospel music. That's something I've always been into. And you get an idea of how they are because from how they sing and how they present themselves and how they are on stage, but being able to communicate with them and have a conversation with them and see how they were as people, as Christian men. They're not just singers, they're men with relationships with God, and they have the real purpose to bring people closer to the cross of Christ. And when I saw that, I was like, this is it. I knew exactly that's the place that God wanted me to be in. I was set.
So, Paul Harkey mentored you during your transition into the
hmm
group. How did his guidance shape your approach to performing as the bass vocalist? And what's one key lesson you learned from him?
So the main thing I learned from him was placement. He taught me a lot about placement, and I was on the bus, I'd say the beginning of April, and my first show on my own was June 15, with was the Memphis Quartet show, the live album. And so I had that time to, sing alongside him to see how it was to be on stage with Signature Sound. Because I've sung on stage with my dad, but it's completely different than how Signature Sound performs. And being able to have him there next to me, seeing how he interacts with the guys, how he sings, how he interacts with the crowd, that's one way of his, mentoring that I got on stage and off stage. He taught me about placement. He gave me tips saying how to focus on being a singer. The low notes will come through age and once you find your placement and all that. So it really did help me improve as a singer, as a performer, and just as a man of God because Paul is an amazing person. I'll get calls from him randomly, just him checking up on me, and he's a great dude, and I'm so happy that I was be able to get mentored by him.
So you said that bass singers like George Younts, Tim Riley, Paul Harkey, Gene McDonald, and Tim Duncan are some of your major influences.
hmm
How have these legends inspired your vocal style and stage presence?
So, like I said before, I grew up listening to all these different bass singers, and my dad's also a bass singer, so that's just something I've always leaned towards. And just watching videos 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, listening to these bass singers hit these notes that I thought are impossible. And then once I started getting more into, Southern gospel, I noticed that it's not just hitting the low notes, it's being able to sing a melody and being able to perform and to make people smile. And, George, Tim, Gene, all of these different bass singers, have all of that. They can sing, they can perform, they can hit the low notes when they need to, and they still have the main purpose of bringing people closer to God. And being able to see that and trying to mimic it, that's what I did a lot. Whenever I'd listen to a specific bass singer sing a song that I really liked, I try to sound like them. And then once I felt like I reached to that point or found the right placement or whatever, I'd put my own version to it. And then I'd take my favorite parts from each of these bass singers and I put it together so I can create my own sound. So that's how I'd say that, these
So,
different bass singers helped me.
so your first full concert with the group was the Memphis Quartet show on
hmm
June the 15th, 2024, where you recorded a live album. What was it like stepping into that spotlight, and how did the energy of the event impact your performance?
The energy was amazing. I had family, friends, come and support me, and just the crowd. And, after every song, the energy that they gave is like, I've never experienced this before. And it was a little, nerve-wracking knowing that my first show on my own will be a live album singing with, different professional singers, Hall of Famers. It's just like everything is just happening in one day. But, my brother came backstage, he prayed with me, the guys prayed with me. I was able to calm my nerves and find that peace that only God can give. And when I went on that stage, I just did what I can do. I did my best and it came out how it went, and I wouldn't change a thing.
So you're 20 years old and you're one of the youngest members to join Signature Sound. How has it been adjusting to the demands of touring with a group that performs over 100 dates a year? And what's been the most surprising part of life on the road?
So being young on the youngest guy on the bus, I don't really notice it. The guys, yeah, they're mature, they're men with, wife and kids, but they're kids at heart. We'll play games, watch TV, watch basketball, play basketball, just have some fun. And I don't feel like I have to get used to hanging around people that are older because I feel like I'm with real friends. And can you repeat the second part of the question?
I sure can. I said, so what's been the most surprising part of life on the road for you?
Most surprising part, I'm just gonna be real honest. I had no idea I would have to be loading in and loading out. I did not think that that was a thing for me. I thought I went on stage and sang. But being able to get on the bus and, load out the trailer, set up the equipment, do whatever, it builds discipline and it builds character. And everything that's you know, on the road that happens with everybody, it's there for a purpose. And I'm so excited to go and sing, but I'm so excited to go and work because I know that at the end of the day, it's for the main reason to bring people closer to God. And it's fun, while we're working, we listen to some music, we're throwing jokes here and there, you're able to spend some quality time. But I did not think I'd be having to load in and out equipment.
So the group's mission is to share songs of hope and connect audiences with faith. How does your personal faith influence your performances? And is there a particular song in the repertoire that it feels especially meaningful to you?
So I feel personally that if you're not right with God and you don't have that strong relationship with God, it'll be hard to share the message if you don't have it yourself. You know, Everybody in the group needs to, be right with God. Yeah, we're human, we make our mistakes. But if we have the goal, which is heaven, relationship with God and accepting Him as your Lord and Savior, being able to spread the gospel through the music, the words in the song, it will be easier to connect those words to the people because we're feeling it up there. We're not just performing it. We're feeling it up there. There's times where we get emotional where we add an extra song in there or say extra words because the spirit is moving. and we need to be able to have that connection with God to be able to do that. And it's not me being biased, it's the honest truth. Oh, what a savior will always be that song for me. He gave his life for us. He died for us, a sinner like me. Like, I am not worth it. Nobody is, but he loves us so much that he sent his only son to die for us. And every time we sing that, the reaction of the crowds, how they're touched by it, I'm being touched by it, the guys are being touched by it. It doesn't matter if we sing it every night. It always hits the same.
So your debut show included a very special guest, Dwayne Allen of the Oak Ridge Boys. What was it like sharing the stage with such a legendary figure, and how did that experience influence your perspective as a performer?
It was crazy. So backstage, I actually was able to talk with him. I was getting me some coffee, and then he was sitting in the room there, and I was there with my brother. We got a picture. We were huge fans. That's one of my dad's favorite groups. So we grew up listening to the Oak Ridge Boys and the Cathedrals were my dad's favorites. And knowing that I was going to be able to sing his song on stage with him there, it was just like I couldn't believe it. And during the sound check, we were able to sing it in the sound check, and I'm like, if this is how it feels just on the sound check, just imagine how it's gonna feel like on stage in front of everybody. And backstage we were together, we were talking, and then on stage being able to sing it, it's just like I can't express with words on how it felt. It was amazing. And it changed my mindset that being so blessed, and I'm so honored to be able to sing with one of my favorite groups, and in my opinion, one of the best groups in all of Southern Gospel. It's allowed me to meet many great, amazing people, amazing singers that I grew up listening to. I went to the Gaither taping, my first taping, and I'd say 70% of the people, came up to me, introducing themselves to me. It's like, I know who you are. I grew up listening to
Uh,
you. It's amazing that I'm having this experience, and it's been great. And it has changed my perspective. It's just like God is good, He has a plan, and we just need to go with His plan.
so the lab project was later released in October 2024, and it captures your first major performance with the group. What was the live recording process like, and is there a track on the album that you're particularly proud of?
From which one? Live in Memphis?
Yeah.
So a track that I loved everything. Like I'm just gonna be real. Everything about that album was amazing. But I think my favorite one was 99 and a half. That's very fun. I have some pretty cool subharmonic notes in there. And I'm sorry if you could say the first part of the question. I think I missed that.
What was the live recording process like?
So it didn't really feel like there was a process, right before, you know, Wayne, our producer, goes up and then lets everybody know that, okay, we're going to start recording, this is how it's going to be. And then we go up and we perform like if it's a normal show. So, yeah, there's cameras up there, but outside of that, it doesn't really feel like anything. I just act normal. I perform the same, and I still have the same goal, and that's for me how the experience was. It was an amazing experience, amazing crowd, but it didn't feel like I was like under the pressure of a recording. Like after like the first song, I just felt like I was performing normally.
So, as a 20-year-old in a genre with a rich history, what do you hope to bring to Southern gospel music, and how do you see yourself contributing to its future?
I hope to bring younger audience. So most of our crowds are older people on the older side, and we don't see a lot of people my age, in at shows. And when we do, it's amazing. It's like I love that people my age also enjoy the music. And my friends have been super supportive with my opportunity to be able to sing with Signature Sound. So they've been start listening to the music, and they've been showing it to their friends. So I feel like having a young person in Southern Gospel has been bringing a younger audience. And it's adding more people, and it's not going to let this genre die because it's one of the best music out there.
So Ernie Haas has described the group as a close knit family with mutual love and admiration. How have you bonded with Ernie, Doug, and Dustin, and what's it like to work with such experienced performers?
First weekend on the bus, even before I had the job, I felt welcomed, I felt loved, I felt cared for. Everybody's so nice, they're so real. They'll, tell you when you're doing a great job and they'll help you when you're not. And they really do care for the betterment of myself. And I am very happy to be on the bus with these guys. And it's like they have put up very high expectations for me because they're the best ever, all of them, everybody, even outside of the singers. We got Tyler, we got Wes, we got Andrew Goldman, we got our Jared, our bus driver, everybody that has been on the bus that has, taken care of me in their own way. It was a blessing. That's the best way I can explain it.
So fans have praised your energy, your humility, and your love for the Lord. How do you approach connecting with audiences, and what's a memorable fan interaction since joining with the group?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
How do you approach connecting with audiences, and what's been a memorable fan interaction since joining with the group?
Okay. So how I approach connecting with audience through music, whenever I'm whenever I'm singing a song, I try to see how the lyrics can affect me, and then I try to make it as like a story. And I'm singing the song as a story to the people in the crowd. And most of the people, they're looking at me and yeah, they're listening if I can hit this low note or if I can do this over here and there. But the main reason that they're there is to hear the lyrics and hear the gospel. And being able to make it as a story, I feel like that, brings connections. And a memorable connection, there's been many, and I've made very close friends through people that have shown up to some shows. But the thing that is most memorable is that I try to stay humble. My dad tells me every day, stay humble, stay humble, stay humble. He preaches that all the time. And people come up to me and they're like, sometimes I worry if I should even go for this loan or not, if that makes me humble or not. I just want to make sure that I don't want to seem as if I'm showing off, but it's what I'm good at, and I want to be able to do my best for the Lord. And there's been times where people come up to me saying that they've been blessed by the way I sang. And that day I was feeling good and I was doing a little extra. So I feel like, you know, if I do my best and if I have my eyes set to God and I'm able to connect with the people, how the first part of the question was mentioned, I think that those conversations with people saying that they've been touched, saying that they felt the Holy Spirit through my music or through our music or through a solo that I sang or through a low note that I even sung, that's our goal. If we can sing in front of thousands of people, but if one person turns their life to God, we did our job.
So joining a Grammy nominated Dove Award winning group is a big step. How has this opportunity shaped your personal and professional growth? And what goals do you have for your time with Signature Sound?
It it has changed my perspective immensely. Going from a little local group with my dad, singing at churches just to spread the gospel, and then going to one of the top end groups with all of these award-winning nominations. And then being nominated, for Live in Memphis, and you'll find him there. It's just like it's happened so fast. It's been a year, and I've done so many things. I've accomplished so many things, and all I can do is thank God and just get ready for the future and what He has in store for us. But it has shaped my mentality, and it shows that this is the real deal, and I love it.
So as the bass vocalist, your role is pivotal in creating the group's signature four-part harmony. Walk us through the process of how you prepare for a performance and ensure your voice complements the quartet sound.
So the main thing is being able to listen to everybody. You know, yeah, I gotta hit some low notes. Yeah, I gotta do that. But blend is the most important thing. And that has been preached the most. I can't be too quiet or I can't be too loud. I need to be at the right volume, right placement to be able to blend with everybody else's voices, timing, enunciation, when I have to take a breath to make sure that it matches with everybody so we get the best sound. But before show, whenever I'm getting ready, I'll drink some coffee or some water, not cold water, it has to be room temperature or something hot to help, my throat. And I'll do some warm-ups. I'll do some subharmonics here and there just to like warm up my lows, and I'll pop my ears and do stuff like that. Say green a lot just to get my placement out there. Like I could already tell that my placement's a little higher just from popping my ears. But those little things that help me prepare for a show.
So our last question is Ernie Haas's signature sound is known for blending traditional Southern gospel with innovative elements. How do you balance honoring the genre's roots while bringing your own fresh perspective to the group sound?
So Ernie does a great job at that. And, we also do different shows, like we do our Jazz Little Christmas, we do our Decades of Love, and now we're doing our patriotic stuff, but we still hold the roots of Southern gospel and spreading the gospel. So even if we might be doing secular stuff, we still tie in the gospel through there, God is love, you know, and all that stuff. And it's great on how he does it. And he's always thinking. He's always thinking. Like he'll tell me an idea, and I'm like, man, that's a great idea. He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about this for 2 years. It's like he's already thinking years ahead because his mind is always going, and that's amazing on how he does it. But he keeps the roots. He got those Southern gospel roots from Glenn and George, and he keeps it, but he adds his touch to it, and that's what made him so successful. He's different, but he keeps the main purpose.
Well, Christopher, thank you so much for your time. I encourage folks they can go to facebook.com/ Ernie Haas and Signature Sound, or they can go to erniehaas.com, find out where you're going to be on tour. And I tell you what, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. I was super excited. Very happy it worked out.
Thank you so much. You have a blessed day.
Same to you. God bless you.